Hello, Priya. We are so glad to have
Hi.
you here. So, David Epstein's Range is one of those books that can teach life lessons to generations. Here are a couple of quotes that have always stuck around me. Learning stuff was less important than learning about oneself. Exploration is not just a whimsical luxury of education, it's a central benefit. Our work preferences and our life preferences do not stay the same because we do not stay the same. Today, we are going to meet an extraordinary leader whose successful professional trajectory embodies these beautiful quotes perfectly. Her versatile career ranges from starting off as a math graduate, then transitioning into a business strategy driver for a large MNC, and then into a tech leader driving large scale social impact innovations. And she's also a beacon of STEM education for the less privileged. Let's put our hands together for Priya Mantri Ajmera, our leader in focus today. Thank you for joining us, Priya.
Thank you, Bhoomika. Looking forward to talking to you today.
Same here. All right, so let me quickly get started. There are a couple of questions that we have for you, and here is the first one. Could you tell us about the inflection points in your career which shaped you into the leader that you are today, Priya?
So many inflection points. I will talk about a few today. When I was studying, I loved math and I thought I would want to become a mathematician in my life. Of course, then the real math came in college and I realized that's not it. So I took the other pathway of figuring out a business degree and then getting into business strategy. I love numbers, so it sort of felt like the right progression. Um, from business strategy to then getting into tech was the first inflection point because I felt that I was talking a different language and all the techies in the team were talking a completely different language. For example, I would be talking about CAGR and growth rates, and they would be saying, so how many concurrent users do you want? What server capacity do you want? And so for me, the first inflection point was to learn to talk a completely different language, especially when it came to working in tech. Um, there weren't too many people like me. There were very few women, and so looking up, figuring out, learning this new language, meeting new people, finding a place for myself was a big inflection point. The second big inflection point in my life was when I started as part of my role at Yahoo. I was part of the strategy team for the emerging markets, was meeting young people in these emerging countries like India, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and learning about what they are doing, who they are, what are they trying to do in life, what does future look like for them, what drives them. And that probably was the first time I started understanding poverty better. Um, I grew up in a very homogeneous environment. I had very similar friends and very similar neighbors. I belonged to a upper middle class family, and so I kind of met most people like me. And I had this view of poverty that people are poor because they choose to be or they're too lazy to come out of poverty. And I didn't understand poverty. Really, I grew up with blinders on. And when I started meeting these young people as part of my role, I started interviewing a lot of young girls, young boys, and I realized that poverty is a very vicious cycle. It is a very difficult cycle to break through. It requires, it's a big hurdle, and it requires a really big rubber band to pull people and push them forward. Um, and so that was sort of the second inflection point in my life that I realized that a lot of the products that at least I was part of were focusing largely on this entertainment needs of this population, but a lot of the basic needs were still unmet. A lot of basic needs about who can I be, what can be my aspirations, what career choices can I have, what where can I get money to move out of this cycle, how can I become a micro entrepreneur? Where do I find clean water, health, and so on, right? So there's just so much variety of things which was not available to a lot of this population. And I also started seeing a lot of examples of when some of these basics are met, how different somebody else's life could be, which was the second inflection point in my life to think about what are those products, what are those sort of slingshots that can be built for somebody to get out of poverty. The third big inflection point for me, and I think that's true for a lot of other women as well, is when your child is born and you start figuring out, I have to choose between working 12-hour day to then taking care of this child. Um, and sometimes you do more of one and less of the other, and sometimes you do more of one and less of the other. And how do you balance that? I think for me, the inflection point was to figure out that all this time that I'm taking away from taking care of my child or spending time with her, she should give me a lot of joy. It should make me feel that I have made some difference. It should make me feel that there is an impact, either for me or for somebody else. And if it should give me, it should make me feel fulfilled. And if it is not, then maybe it is time to change. So that was a third inflection point in my life, that I started seeing beyond the usual motivations of I need good money and I need good title and I need good perks and I need to fly business class and I need to buy a Mercedes, to then start thinking about more sort of softer parts of fulfillment, which were around joy, around mental peace, of having a longer lasting impact. And so, yeah, these are three big inflection points in my life.
Wonderful. And it's so inspiring to hear about all of this, Priya. We meet lots and lots of very, very great leaders who do great things in technology and who do great stuff out there. But when someone like you comes across who also thinks about ground realities, it's, inspirational at a next level. So thank you for sharing that journey with us. Now, with this understanding, here is my next question to you. What are your main motivations behind this diverse yet risky career choice? And I'm sure while you were undergoing this journey, there would have been considerations like you said, paychecks and breaking the glass ceiling and whatnot, right? So, what have been your main motivations? Who have been your mentors in this journey? How have you come across all of it, and how have you won over all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. I think some of it is organic. That, for example, the move into tech was organic because my husband and I had I had a long distance relationship for some time, and we realized it wasn't worth it because he was in the US and I was in Bombay, and we realized that we wanted to stay in one place together instead of spending like all our money burning up on the telephone calls or travel. And we decided Bangalore is the place. And from in Bangalore, if you don't work in tech, there aren't too many other opportunities. So I think moving into tech was very organic, or wasn't self-selection. But I think one motivation which has been throughout all these different inflection points is to learn about new things, about new people, and having this curiosity to try out different things. I'm somebody so I'm a board gamer and I do puzzles quite a bit. And so every year I try and pick up some new thing. I write, I paint. So there is I think a split personality inside me, which takes me through various pathways. And so, so curiosity was one thing that has kind of taken me through this journey and kept me at it. I think the motivation at the beginning of every career is to see yourself in a place that you you have maybe some mentors or some mental image of who this person is. A lot of times when you arrive at this place, you realize it's not as great as it is meant to be, because everybody, or it's made out to be, because everybody has a different pathway and a different driver. Um, but having this thought process of saying, I will pick out multiple milestones in my life and I reach there, and then I will think about what next. And instead of following a set path, at that point, I will be curious enough to look around me and see what else is out there. I think the third one that has been an interesting sort of reason for being is that I met some very nice people through this pathway. Some not so nice people, but most of them were very, very nice people. Where if you will ask them questions, if you will share your inner angst with them, if you will share your curiosity with them, a lot of people will say, hey, you know what? I know this another person who may be helpful. So when I started thinking about the social impact space, the first set of people I met were people who were introduced to me by my manager, by some ex-colleagues, by friends from college, who said, hey, I met this person who works in this space. Why don't you go talk to them? What helped was to sort of verbalize and ask for help. And a lot of the doors opened because I asked for help, and people connected me to people, and then those people connected me to more people. But it was a great way to learn and try out things. I think what's been helpful for me is having this confidence that I think working in a place like this or having a certain type of education gives you that confidence that if I will try out something new, and if it doesn't work out, I know that there is a place that I have. I've been out of technology space for some time now. I've been in the social impact space for a good 5-6 years now, but I still get messages from people asking, hey, we have an opening. We are looking for a senior product leader. Would you like to come back? So if you acquire certain skills and you build a certain type of network, people will reach out, opportunities will open up. If you take a new pathway, it doesn't work out, you can always come back and try out something else again. Keeping in touch with some of those people, maintaining that network is very, very important. That not every bet will pay off, not every risk will be worth it. But the fact that you have left some pathways open behind you will make it easier for you to come back and then try again or try something different again.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. There are so many things that you've just described in this discussion of ours that are so worth learning from. Like this one statement that you just mentioned, that most of the people that we meet are good. And most of them, especially leadership level, we can get inspiration from them in multiple ways. And it's upon us, if we ask for help and if we go ahead and talk about what we actually feel, we could get real guidance. So
absolutely, yeah. I think I'll tell you one that when I talked to my manager at Yahoo and I told him that I'm questioning all the products that we're building. Is this worth it? And he said, so what do you want to do? And I said, I want to understand what is bugging people in the real world. And I said, okay, go take some time off, go figure out what you want to do. And I think a lot of the organizations should create such spaces, and a lot of managers should keep it open for people to explore and take risks and go figure out things. I see that happening more and more now than before, especially post-COVID. I feel that there's a little bit more flexibility on understanding yourself, figuring out what drives you, etc. So I think that's a good change. But absolutely, yes. Positive environment helps quite a bit, and positive people help quite a bit.
absolutely.
So find positive people in your life is a big motivation in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a bit about handling the unconscious biases that especially women and women in product and women in tech and obviously women in social sector would face. So like what are those that you typically face and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. I think, especially in tech, early years, there were a lot of times where I would be the only woman in a room full of 40, 50 men, and there is a certain sort of role that is defined for you, or people come up with these preconceived notions of you are here to take notes, you're here to kind of schedule things, and you are here to do the least common work and not to give your opinion. I think what has helped me is to kind of stand up and speak up. A lot of times I was too shy, or I was like, I don't know if people understand. I don't know if I understand what I'm saying. Will people make fun of me? Will it be weird? And I think a lot of times I let those opportunities pass by, where I would sit quietly and not share my opinions. And I think that is one thing that definitely needs to change. That more women need to speak up. They need to speak up about their opinions. They need to speak up about things that are not right. They need to speak up about things that are going right. But and I've just finished 20 years of my graduating from my MBA school, and I went to a 20th year reunion, and I heard this from a lot of people on how these biases exist, not just in tech, but in every industry possible, that these biases exist. And and a lot of times women who are open about conversations and who talk and who give their opinions, you can go either way. You can either go in this way of you have way too many opinions, which is also something that I've heard about myself. Like, you have way too many opinions, you have very strong opinions, to you have no opinions at all. So I think striking a balance somewhere in between is one, definitely, that is a big learning. I think the second big learning is that a lot of times, a lot of us start feeling very angry about these biases. And I didn't understand this. I had the same anger when people would think of me in a specific role, or say you can only play this type of role, or you can only do these type of things. Is that over time, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, I've learned a lot about behavior and community, and how our behavior is driven by the kind of environment we come from, etc. And I realized that a lot of times unconsciously people do these, and or these biases exist because they have not seen other women like you. They have not seen or heard other women who have opinions. And so unconsciously, these biases exist. And sometimes just saying nicely, uh, sorry, this is not right, or you are not listening to me, or you are not giving me space, is sometimes good enough for people to pause and reflect and say, I didn't realize I was doing that. But calling it out on behavior where you feel that these biases exist. I'm not saying that most of these will go away just being nice. There are multiple instances where you can call out multiple times and people will still not change their behavior. But I would say a large percentage of them will actually change if you call it out and you speak nicely about it.
Absolutely. And I love reading about human psychology. And I think this is psychology 101. That
Yeah, absolutely.
if we realize that somebody has some kind of a background, it gives us the capability of giving them a benefit of doubt. And that really
Yeah,
is the situation. Yeah. Can't agree more.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. One question as a product person, I really want to understand from you is you've transitioned from so many different fields and now you're in the social sector. How do you think product thinking or products change when industries change or organizations change? And as PMs, how should we go about learning all these competencies and so on?
Yeah. I think the first thing that I learned when I started working in this space was human behavior, also human psychology. This term, what does your user want, sticks with you, and it sticks with you in every work that you do. Whether you're working in strategy, whether you're working in social impact, whether you're thinking about what will work in a school, in a government school where there are 10 children and 5 cows in the room, whether you're thinking about what will work with how do you tell uneducated women about what vaccination is their child due for, versus how do you create this uber ultra luxury bag for women. I think thinking about what would the user want is a very big thing that stays with you. When I started working in the social impact space, the word that is used for user usually is beneficiary. And the moment you put beneficiary as the term, you have this sort of image of this poor person who can't do anything by themselves and don't have any agency. And so the first thing that I brought in when I started talking to all these startups in the space was, don't call them beneficiary, call them user. The moment you call them user, it's a person, you can relate to them, you know who they are, you can identify them, you can actually visualize. And very surprising. I mean, that's the first big thing, this product thinking that I brought into a lot of the startups that I worked with. And a lot of them said, hey, I never wrote down what is my user looking for. I wrote down what I will give. I wrote down what I need to get to give that thing, but I never wrote down what my user is looking for. So I think I brought in a lot of this product thinking on how do you design impact in a way that somebody will use this product of impact. Somebody will come into the classroom, and if you don't give them value, they will not come to the classroom. Somebody will come to your primary healthcare center. If you don't create enough value, they will not come again and again. You will have to push them. How do you create pull? And so I brought in a lot of these hooks and how do you create moments in your product, etc. Kind of language, which was interesting for people because they had not, in the social impact space, that was not the language that was very easy to find and hear about. So yeah, the first exercise I made everybody do is do a persona mapping exercise. Who's your persona? What's the journey they're going through? And it was an interesting experience for them. So some of these skills do carry over. It doesn't matter what you're building, what you're creating, some of these skills will carry over.
Absolutely. Can't agree more again. All right. So India is not just one India. India is like multiple, it's so diverse and so many Indias exist within this country.
Absolutely.
So how as a product leader, would you advise product managers out there to think about the Indian persona and how to go about it and how to build those products which actually make sense for the user, considering there are so many languages, there are so many cultures out there?
Yeah, I think first thing is step out of the room because we were talking about biases. We ourselves live with so many biases. We have certain thought process and we think of this is how a person behaves. But until you go and meet them, you will not be able to figure out this is how a person behaves. I'll give you an example. I was advising a startup which works on immunization of children between 0 to 5 in villages where migrant women, migrant parents live. And most of these women are young mothers, they got married before the legal age, illiterate, and they move from village to village in search of work, or even between state to state in search of work. And a lot of times they don't know what immunization has been given to their children. They don't know how to read. The way, if you ask them what immunization has been given, they're like, oh, pre-harvest, something was given. I don't know what it is, right? So there are rough numbers between 4 to 8 lakh children who die because of these late or inadequate immunization. And if you fix that problem, a large number of deaths can be avoided. So I went to this village about 80 kilometers from Udaipur, and I'm sitting in a primary healthcare center on the floor with all these young women. And I was I'm a Rajasthani, so I was trying to talk to them in my broken Rajasthani. And the first big surprise for them was that I was allowed to travel by myself uh, from one city to another. The second big thing for them was that I owned my own phone and I earned my own money, and that nobody was questioning me about this. And the phone thing came as a surprise because, when you think about it, you're like, oh, they don't know how to use mobile phones, etc. And what I realized is that they all knew how to use mobile phone. I was carrying an iPhone. Within 5 minutes, I unlocked it. They learned how to. They were taking pictures and they were taking selfies and they were doing all these filters, which even I did not know existed on my iPhone. Um, but the fact that none of them had phones, and I was asking them, "How come you don't have a phone? You seem like you know everything." And they said, "Look around you. Any woman below 35 does not have a phone, not because she can't own it, not because she doesn't know how to use it, not because she can't afford it, but because everybody else in the village thinks that the girls or the women will learn bad things or will be negatively influenced if they have a phone in their hand." So a lot of times walked in with this bias of saying they are illiterate, they don't know how to use the phone, and they don't know what they are doing on the phone. So we have to maybe design like simpler screens. But a lot of times bias gets shattered when you go meet real people in real environment. So that is my thing, my biggest learning about designing products for people. I think the second bigger learning is that a lot of times we have to go with open mind because we come from a certain background and certain type of. We get paid big bucks for saying what we think we want to say, or a lot of times we go with these things of I am telling you this is true. So keeping an open mind and then you're designing for somebody, you're not designing for yourself. And so that is a very big learning for me, is that these biases creep in and you want to appear like this person who knows everything and can solve all problems in a jiffy, but a lot of times keeping an open mind to saying, I don't know, I am going to try and learn is a very big learning for me from just these different diverse experiences.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah. So, okay, I think we've had a couple of very serious conversations here. I'd like to jump into something. So while we were conversing yesterday, you mentioned that there's a mantra that you give to young girls who are trying to pursue their careers in STEM. So, like, would you want to talk about it? What is that?
Yeah.
And how do you inspire women when you go and meet them?
Yeah. And so I do a lot of these conversations with young girls who are from underprivileged background. They work with nonprofits who teach them STEM, coding, math, etc. And a lot of times the usual attitude or behavior at home that these girls face is, this is not for you. You're a girl, you learn more girly things. And so in one of these conversations, I was in a small school in Pune, and this girl came in and she showed me her notebook, and she had written code in Urdu because she didn't know Hindi or English. She's writing code in Urdu. And so I asked her, what do your parents and your family say about this? And she says, they say I can't do it. And I said, next time when somebody says, no, you can't do it, just turn around and say, why not? And so that is a mantra that I tell everybody that in your life, you will come across a lot of people who will say you can't, and just turn around and say, why not? And walk off. And that is good enough. That is your badass attitude.
Absolutely. When somebody says you can't, you turn around and say, why not? Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Moving to a fun section now, Priya. It's a rapid fire. I'm going to ask you
Okay.
immediate responses and we'll know what is there in your mind.
Okay.
All right. Work from home or office-based work environment?
Pre-COVID work from home, now office-based work environment.
Flexible working hours or 9 to 5 schedule?
Absolutely flexible working hours.
All right. Collaborating with diverse team or working independently?
I have a split personality, so half of me wants to say diverse team, half of me wants to say work independently.
All right. Okay. Problem solving strictly through data analysis or using intuition and creativity?
You're talking to a mathematician, data all the way.
All right. Focusing on big picture or paying attention to smaller details?
Smaller detail. I think there's many people who miss out smaller details, and a lot of times these smaller details make such a big difference.
All right. All right. Being hands-on with technology or managing delegating tasks to the team?
Second one, all the way. I think I'm done trying to learn new languages now.
This next one, I know what you're going to respond, but still, taking calculated risk or playing safe?
Yeah, I would have loved to say playing safe, but no, I can't. So calculated risk all the time.
All right. The last one, being a specialist in one area or a generalist in many areas?
I think generalist in many areas. It has helped me to move from one place to another to try out new things. A lot of time over specialization will limit what you can try out. So yeah, generalist.
All right. So, yes, I did quote range in the beginning of this session, but I think you are one like very strong epitome to this book. We can like always learn from your journey in career and even personal life as to how you went through so many different things and you covered such a wide range in terms of career. Yet you are so successful. So, thank you for joining us, Priya, today. It was very, very heartening talking to you.
Same here. Thank you. I loved it. It was a great experience for me too.
Thank you, Anne.
All right. Thank you.